Professor,
Yes?
I have great news to share.
What is it? I have a faculty meeting soon, and can't talk long.
My friend Jesus has risen from the dead. He's alive. I saw him die, and we thought it was all over, but then he appeared to us alive 3 days later. Just think of the implications. This means that miracles are possible and the supernatural truly does exist.
Right. And I flew to the moon today.
What?
Oh, nothing. Who are you anyway?
I'm Simon Peter, a disciple of Jesus. But did you hear what I just said?
Yes. Well, how do you know this man, Jesus, even died in the first place? Maybe you just thought he was dead. But if he never truly died, then it couldn't have been a real resurrection.
My master Jesus was beaten with leather whips laced with metal fragments, and then nailed to a cross with large spikes. An article titled On the Physical Death of Jesus Christ, that was published in the peer-reviewed Journal of the American Medical Association concluded that Jesus was definitely dead when he was taken down from the cross.
Well, maybe he had a near-death experience. It happens to people all of the time, and they live many years afterward. That's not a resurrection.
The executioners who crucified him confirmed that he was dead, and they could not afford to make any mistake, since they were accountable to the Roman government. Also, our friend John saw a soldier stab him in the heart, which would have ensured his death. Blood and clear fluid came out of his body, and according to medical studies, this shows that he died from collapse of the pericardial sac. Afterward, some of his friends wrapped him tightly in linen, and laid his body in a tomb that was sealed by a massive rock. Even if he survived that long, he would have died soon from lack of medical attention.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess your friend Jesus was probably dead. But have you checked the gravesite to see if the body was actually gone?
Sir, you act as if we're fools. A few women we know checked the tomb, and also our friend John. And while John was going, I personally went with him, and saw that the body was not there, although the burial cloths were still there.
Come on. You could have gone to the wrong gravesite. After all, you weren't the one who buried Jesus, am I correct?
Yes, but the women were there when Jesus was being buried. None of us were confused about its location. Also, some of the local religious leaders, who didn't want anyone to think that Jesus rose from the dead, never questioned that the tomb was the right one.
Well, how am I supposed to know that you and your friends didn't just steal his body so that you can make up a story about a resurrection? After all, if you start your own religion, you can gain followers and maybe get some money out of the deal.
Sir, I would never do such a thing. Our master taught us to be honest people. And we are spreading this message at great risk to our lives. Some of us have already died because we refuse to recant our story that Jesus rose from the dead.
So what? That doesn't prove anything. On September 11th, 2001, Muslim extremists attacked the World Trade Center and died for their belief that they would go to paradise. Does that mean they were right?
I'm sorry, Professor, I don't see the connection. Oh, I think I understand what you're saying. No, sir, that is a bad comparison. If we are lying about the resurrection, then that would mean that we know the resurrection never happened. But why would we risk our lives for it if we knew the whole thing was a lie?
I don't know. Why would the terrorists risk their lives if they are not right?
Because they firmly believed that they were right, and that's why they were willing to die for it. They wouldn't have died for it if they knew it was a lie. If we are deliberately lying about the resurrection, then we do not believe it, and thus there would be no reason to risk our lives for it. There's a huge difference between sacrificing your life for something you think is true, and sacrificing your life for something you know is actually false.
Fine. Well, just tell me what happened from the start. I know there must be some other explanation for this.
Well, after we discovered the tomb was empty, we found out that he appeared alive to a friend of ours, Mary Magdalene, and then a few other women. Then I saw him personally, and the rest of our friends saw him.
I see. Mr. Peter, you must be suffering from a psychological phenomenon known as hallucination. It happens when people see things that really aren't there because they really want to see them.
But,
in fact, we have some good professors here at the university who would be able to explain more about that to you. let me tell you how to contact the School of Medicine and Psychology here. I'm sorry about your friend Jesus, Peter, but sometimes we need to just face the facts. Now, if you excuse me, I have to go to that meeting now.
But, sir, Mary Magdalene, 2 other women, 10 other men, myself, and others, all saw Jesus under various circumstances, and at various times on the same day. We all agreed it was him, and some of us, including myself, have known him for 3 years. Do you mean to tell me that we are all just conjuring this up in our heads?
Well, you can ask some of our faculty at the medical school. They would be able to give you a more satisfactory answer. I'm just a history professor.
And if we were just seeing things, how did the tomb become empty? Sir, God has raised up Jesus, of whom we are all witnesses. God raised him up on the 3rd day, and showed him openly to us who ate and drank with him, after he rose from the dead.
Well, if he's still alive, where is he now?
He first gave commandments to the apostles that he chose, and was seen by them for 40 days, and spoke of the things related to the kingdom of God. So then, after the Lord spoke to them, he was received up into heaven, and sat down at the right hand of God.
And you saw this take place?
Yes, I saw him ascend into the sky.
Now, Peter, let's look at this issue rationally. I think you need to hear something important. Maybe it was easy to believe in miracles 2,000 years ago, but since that time, the human race has learned much, especially because of science. We have learned that miracles and supernatural events do not occur. In fact, they are impossible. Therefore, there must be some other explanation for all of this, because a resurrection from the dead is impossible.
Listen, sir. I already told you, we watched him die, the executioners confirmed he was dead, and then we saw him alive in his body afterward. There is only one explanation. Besides, on what rational basis can you presuppose that miracles are impossible? The only way you could know that miracles are impossible is, if you know for sure that God doesn't exist. But you must follow the evidence where it leads, even if it leads to the supernatural. Don't you agree with following the data?
Well, yes, of course. I suppose we don't know for sure if miracles are impossible.
And if the evidence shows that a miracle did happen, then we just have to follow the evidence. If you choose to rule out miracles a priori, you are not being objective.
There must be some explanation for all this. I don't understand.
Well, Professor, thanks for your time. I have to go now and tell other people about the news. When the evidence of the resurrection confronted me, I was forced to lay aside my preconceptions as well. I had no idea that the Messiah was supposed to die, let alone resurrect. Our religion teaches that the Messiah would be a warrior that leads our nation to victory and peace, and that a resurrection would only take place at the end of the world. But when the fact that Jesus resurrected became undeniable, I had no choice but to change my previous beliefs and accept it.
Well, I'm a university professor, and I couldn't believe anything so foolish and unscientific.
The point, sir, is that it is scientific because the evidence supports it. What is unscientific is not accepting a conclusion that the evidence points to.